Hey, it's Glenn. And that is content not fit for YouTube.com.
What are you doing? You over here rubbing your dick?
Divine. A word that few series earn, but in an effort to capture understanding itself. Fuck. Okay, so maybe its translated title is My Faithful Virgin Girlfriend Bitch, and also maybe I'm a pathological liar. But that's okay. In a way, it was only a half lie. Because it is sincere in its trashiness, and the aspects that define it as such are exactly why you can enjoy how messy and thirsty these characters are as human beings. All of the implied baggage that comes with its title does exist, but that is not enough to keep me away from attempting to carry it. But also, I've never lifted in my life. So let's talk about something that I don't have to carry.
Coming this fall, in a world not far from our own, not all hope is lost. From the people who brought you shows you only found mildly entertaining, comes the newest, hottest show about fucking your sister.
What? Hey, no, not that one. That one's a series is like from 2010, and no, not that one either. No, not that one. Not that one. Okay, that one is actually good.
Police!
This one. Really, Imouto doesn't buffer. It has no filter. It is unflinchingly honest and offers up the most blunt version of whatever it displays. It is downright abrupt. And because of that, it is deceptively funny. So much of that abruptness can dip right into a clear sense of wit, which honestly, it doesn't find all the time. And to be honest, I never thought I'd say this about a series about wanting to fuck your Imouto, even though that's not what it's actually about and more about the creative. But it screams that message from the mountaintops, drilling it into our psyches, that message being the inescapable need to stick your raging desire into your sister's tight sentence structure. The wannabe Oni-chan is a novelist, after all.
Everybody, clap your hands!
And speaking of novelists, Nishio Ishin of Monogatari fame has another one of his more obscure works being adapted. And seeing as I've been reading his titles since 2010 to practice my Japanese skills, and I still do, I'd say there's probably something special about him. Special in that no matter the series he takes on, despite the premise or the setting, his writing is raw, unkempt, but still laser focused. I consider Nishio Ishin to be one of the most honest, uncompromising artists on the planet. He never shies away from his own fullest expression. Whether the result is a carefully expressed statement or the disarranged raging from his unique disposition, he undoubtedly puts his all onto the pages. And even in the case of Juuni Taisen, despite its undeniably campy conceits with the premise, Nishio has earned my selective confidence. And it's just not the fact that it's his work being adapted. Alongside a director defined by his animator roots of having no moderation, Naoto Hosoda heads the project, leaving none unsure of his understanding of animated action with no restraints. Lush color, layered images, and intimate cinematography all come together to create an inimitable portrait of a shogi player taking on not only the opponent across the board, but his own inner demons. Constructed upon a sensitive evocation of the protagonist's Rei's depression, Threegatsu no Lion shines darkly as an unrelenting examination of grief and all of its accomplices. An examination that displays an all-encompassing sense of loss through flashback at just the right moments, using jagged sound and visuals as a subtle trigger for the constant anger it brings. With characters lashing out and dealing with unpredictable emotions amidst familial interactions that feel so specifically human, the series affords itself a surprising grace that embodies an attitude that is at once sophomorically political in its fervor, but also complicated enough to justify that fervor by exploring that human contradiction. And that is exactly it right there. That is what embodies Threegatsu no Lion. Personal and universal, cynical and triumphant, Threegatsu tells a story of personal struggle, but at the same time, humanity's struggle against oneself and everything around oneself. That oh so familiar, painful feeling. That human contradiction. Although I feel like I might just be parodying myself at this point, few shows nail fun as consistently as Souma does. To Souma, more important is the general rapport shared by the characters, and the warm atmosphere of the world they inhabit. These characters are friends who like each other's company, and it makes that obvious while also inviting you, the viewer, the person watching it, to share that company for just a little bit. It is very refreshing. And also constantly delivering the silly elevation of the mundanity of cooking keeps that spontaneous energy alive that it's had since the very first chapter. And no, I am not saying that just because this previous model made the recipes. Okay, maybe I am, actually. Simply put, Souma is serious about the fun, serious about its stakes, serious about its characters, but it's mostly serious about those because that is the fun. Those are the weight of the fun, and it understands that. This is a series that actually has a pretty special place in my heart, because at first it was being translated, but then that stopped. So I took it upon myself and my diminishing Japanese skills to read it, and I have been for the past 2 or so years. And I've had literally nobody to talk about it with. Now that it has an anime, maybe it'll build enough interest with my friends that they'll actually read it, and I can talk about it with my friends. Oh wait, I don't have friends. It proves itself to be a clever display of metaphor being explored through a wild and crazy yet specifically human story. Well, sometimes. Its initial premise of empirical isolation on a sand ocean focuses on the ideas of change, and of disconnect, both personal and societal, which is smartly woven into the base nature of the narrative, and it's hard not to care for the show's varied and well-depicted cast of characters because of that emphasis. An emphasis that becomes a voice that whispers quietly, forcefully, and with purpose. But, occasionally, that voice's clarity worsens, falls hoarse, unable to speak properly, and it's obvious what it's trying to do. You know what it's trying to do, I know what it's trying to do. The passion is still there, it is apparent, but that passion has led to it being a series constantly out of breath, unable to catch up to its own ambitions. Dialogue, which defines most of the characterization, falls short. There's so much of it, but it says too much while saying too little at the same time. So this otherwise exuberant voice burns out at inopportune times, plagued by the muted pressure of its own distinct blend of poetic visuals and philosophical ideas. And both of those mentioned traits that really define the series are best defined by a strong voice, which, despite its shortcomings, Children of the Whales undoubtedly has that voice. It's just not loud enough. But what if? What if there's another voice? One that can take the series and address the audience directly, clearly. That voice does exist. It is director Kyohei Ishiguro, a talent not only defined by his personal abilities, but the abilities of the staff he is able to magically bring together for these projects. Seriously, look at Your Lie in April, look at Occultic 9. This guy has brought people back from the dead, people who have not worked on a production in years pop out of nowhere, and on a TV production no less, which I guess just really goes to show how the industry is all about connections, etc., but that's its own thing entirely. Ishiguro molds not only his own style, his own voice, into something significantly pointed, but molds together multiple voices of the industry, of the staff, into a single, empowering, echoing voice that resounds louder than any single individual possibly could. Now, Children of the Whales is a fundamentally gentle show, one that loves its characters, but also allows them to make a variety of very, very human mistakes. And when they're forced into a violent vertigo that hinders their voices, I can rely on Ishiguro and the many people he brought together to rectify the issues that I have with the manga. After all, it is an adaptation. New medium, new voice. And speaking of voices,
catch me if you can, oh darling, you are so charming. Cause you won't, catch you won't, no you can catch me if you can, but this is
Rie Matsumoto, the exact archetype of a prodigy. Scintillating directional originality only scratches the tip of the many words I could say about her, and that is where my words will stop, because I shouldn't talk about her. She is no longer the director. Kekkai Sensen's sequel has lost its main source of creative energy, not because of some scandal or misdirected firing, but because Matsumoto believed that she had done everything she wanted with the project. And that has created an internal clash for me, because after diving into some of the manga, I realized that I don't love Kekkai Sensen. I love Matsumoto. I loved Matsumoto's Kekkai Sensen. And even though it appears her replacement, Shigehito Takeyanagi, is attempting to recreate her Kekkai Sensen, that doesn't change the fact that it isn't hers. It's not the same. It can't be the same. Matsumoto took the series and adapted it into something entirely heartfelt to her, and that cathartic, emotionally charged energy cannot be recaptured. Not without Matsumoto. But, Matsumoto's absence aside, with the rest of the original animation staff returning, it'll be an impressive production that hopefully can just reproduce the same contagiously fun personalities that really carried Matsumoto's vision. And so far, I'd say it's succeeded. The lesbian in a wheelchair show. Before she was in a wheelchair. I'm so angry! Oh wait, there's also a sequel this season where she's still in the wheelchair. Oh, okay, cool. Let's add to cart anyway. Click. Yuuki Yuuna has always had a nuance of characterization and respect for the interiority of its characters that far outstrips similar shows. And I am not only saying that because they're gay. But that is a part of it. A big enough part of it, actually, that I don't want to write anymore. They're gay, and that is good.
Love me, say that you love me. For me, go on and for me. Love me, pretend that you love me. Leave me.
Just Because approaches earnestness from a wholly intimate setting with strictly realistic intention. In doing so, it is perhaps the very definition of a small series, but gloriously so. It's all subtlety and grace, often resting on the shoulders of an incredibly raw performance from young Studio Pine Jam's connections to exceptional animators like Kazuaki Shimada. A shame that dedication to properly depicting life through minute individualistic character animation has doomed the production, but hey, it might work out. Yeah, right? And also, I do trust Hajime Kamoshida, the writer of Sakuraso. Clear stakes, economical characterization, relentless drama. Hajime knows how to up the ante of human stories without collapsing into the pit of hyperbole. The production woes will likely hurt the series during its entire run. In fact, as I'm actually reading this, episode 5 just got delayed. But it is still definitely worth it for the human rawness exuberated in the animation and the writing. And also, just because. Internet. Hey, let's talk about depression. I mean, not really, but Girls' Last Tour really captures that mix of abstract emotions that I personally felt when I was a very sad boy online long ago. It's a strange, pessimistic but optimistic and unsettling, undefinable work almost. At times it's off balance, but it's always focused in its silent interrogations of setting and conversation. It offers the most stark example of how emotions lead our lives. Girls' Last Tour renders a world devoid of civilization except for two girls, plus, but basically the two girls. Two girls traveling the gray sea of what's left, with no shore in sight. It's a visceral portrait of loneliness. One that makes sure every 20-minute episode contains some emotional or thematic truth. Did they just fucking dab? Internet, hey again. Let's talk about how my online persona contains more of me than my real self because society tends to isolate those who showcase any personality outside of the predetermined standards. Haha, just kidding. I show the real world how much of a loser I am too. So, essentially, a documentary about my life, Net-juu no Susume tells the tale of addiction to MMOs. Online. The recovery of an MMO junkie. Despite being about people's interactions in a fake world, it is undeniably real. Actually, in fact, that is exactly why it is real. My best friends are people I've met online, where I've made the most genuine connections. And through its understanding of this, MMO Junkie really is, unexpectedly, the most real show this season. Oh boy, you're telling me the last piece of Negima TV I'll ever have to see won't have to be this anymore? Maybe that was the best part of Negima, actually. Anime fans really tend to dive out of the medium early on, so forgive me for sounding like an old man, but I love Negima. I'm so sorry. I am that person 6 years after the series prematurely ended who is still upset about it. Yuuki Hoarder is the sort of sequel to Negima, but it's only sort of more dive deeply into that in the most latest chapters. So this one curve that it's been dealt really won't reach that point. So for now, it's just kind of a light show that's enjoyment is founded in my mixture of feelings built over the years with the author, Ken Akamatsu. He really does do some effectively entertaining stuff, but honestly, the best parts of Yuuki Hoarder are when they're actually directly linked to the original Negima, and due to much of that material being later, like I said, I really won't waste words on the anime. But at least it's 2D. Love Live is less about the purpose of the characters and story, but coming right at the audience with this charming as hell tone. It practically encourages non-caring and falling for the good times texture of the music, the vibe, the performances, and the style. And make no mistake that it is absolutely infectious at times. In bouts, it even offers rich, endearing character moments while consistently hinting at poignant and universal themes about moving forward, growing up. Love Live is one of the few shows to fully succeed on its formal, idiomatic, and emotional grounds. And also, I want Dia to crush my testicles. There is a vitality to Houseki no Kuni born of an incredible dedication to realizing the moment-to-moment humanity of its characters and world, clear in every well-framed shot and carefully animated smug. Falling into the rhythm of the surreal with a meticulously crafted, but also one that feels almost completely improvised world. Born out of each immortal gem that defines the cast, it achieves an authenticity at once more exalted and more primal than mere verisimilitude. This is due to purpose. Even on our Earth, every individual searches for their purpose, a reason, motivation to move forward day to day. This doesn't change with Houseki no Kuni. This universal desire is used to illustrate the show's many points about life, about society, about people, about growing up. It is determined to make it so that by the time we leave, it feels as though we have learned something. And more importantly, the characters have learned something and have grown from it. Hey there, it's me, the guy who spent unmentionable, embarrassing amounts of money on idol mobage. And I am not stopping anytime soon. Seriously, watch SideM, you've watched CG, you've watched OG, maybe you haven't watched any of it. Regardless, SideM is good. The entirety of the Idolmaster franchise has an undeniable amount of heart, and that necessary organ's pulse is kept healthy by an onslaught of earnest, charming characters, and the adaptations for every Idolmaster always have healthy productions, always fresh and energized, and SideM is no different. Well, except for the cute boys part. But I mean, that's just a different benefit. SideM plays like an authentic cry from the depths, and it exhibits how fully it has mastered the use of idols to sincerely motivated, emotionally honest ends. Its understanding of dramatic tension, release, and even unfulfilled longing of betterment is just remarkable, and it has the strong staff required to fully enamor every scene with that. Take my word for it, and watch SideM. It utilizes a theatrical bent that nicely mirrors its narrative aspirations for every cute boy idol that I wish was my real dad. It is so good. SideM is worth your time, especially if you're like me and you don't have a real dad. Layering the mythic and the prosaic with the intimate and the broad, Ancient Magnus Bride is a quiet, endearingly playful piece that culminates into a strange and beguiling experience. Its trademark adhesion to the alienating conventions of a bone daddy puts it in line with romanticism's wistful ethos. It has manufactured a world brimming with imagination and possibilities unlike any other, and through its sweeping pastoral landscapes and the hard, rough edginess of my bone daddy, does it truly earn the word beautiful.
Ah, Maika-san, ホイップの補充を先にお願いでき。
はあ、無駄吠えうるさいですよ、だけん。
Mom, come here! I found the woman I'm gonna marry! I mean, she's real? Real to me.
Feeling it now, I'm always shouting out. Here we go, how it no way, casino. And take a chill out, was calling, but you can play to pass it on. Well, carry no babe. Kiss がない、そんなにバカじゃない。いつだって楽しい声からでしょ。Oh man.